Here. I am here to talk to you about a set of books called the South Carolina Junior Book Award nominees. You may wonder what they are. Well, they're a special set of books that are handpicked by middle schoolers and teachers and school librarians all across the state. They're some of the best books written for you in the last 3 years. Now, this year's group of books are really special because they've got a lot of good things. They're about diversity, lots of adventure books, lots of books about families that I think you will like. Okay, first up on the list is a book called The Benefits of Being an Octopus, which is a very interesting title within itself. It's about a 7th grade girl named Zoe who, in addition to having the same typical middle school worries that you might have, she also has to worry about taking care of her younger siblings. Her mother works at night. They're very poor, and it's very hard for her to go to school every day and feel, well, normal. And she also has to deal with her mom's boyfriend, who is very, very mean. And actually, she thinks it would be better if she were an octopus because octopus have, 8 arms. They're strong. They're very defensive. But of course, she doesn't turn into an octopus or anything like that. But she learns to find her voice. She learns that if she speaks up against things, that things might actually work in her favor. So you might enjoy this one. Next up is a deeply suspenseful adventure book called Deep Water. Julie is only 12 years old, but she works with her father in his diving business. She's an experienced diver. They take clients out on the Gulf of Mexico and they have them dive underwater. Well, one day Julie goes with her father and they have a set of clients they really want to impress, and the clients are kind of obnoxious. And her father gets sick. And he asked Julie if she would mind going underneath, down in the water, to guide them. And of course, being an experienced diver, she does. And they're underwater for a while, and when they come back up, the boat is gone, along with her father, and they are stranded out at sea. Will they survive? What's out there in the ocean waiting them? Next up is a book called Endling, The Last. It is by Catherine Applegate. She is the lady that wrote The One and Only Ivan. This is about a creature called, I believe I'm pronouncing this right, it's called a dairn. And a dairn is like a dog-like creature that walks on its hind legs. And they are very, very mysterious and powerful, and people want this animal. They hunt the animal because it can supposedly discern truth. Well, one day Vix is home with her pack and her pack is hunted and she is the only one left. And she feels like it's time for her to venture out into the world to see what else is out there. So if you like The One and Only Ivan, you might like The Endling. Okay, next up is a book called Every Shiny Thing. This book is told from 2 points of view. One is from a girl named Lauren, and the other is from a girl named Sierra. Lauren lives a very nice lifestyle. Her family's very rich. Her brother is autistic, and one day he gets sent off to a special school. And Lauren is grateful that he's getting the care that he needs, but she feels like, well, what happens if someone has someone like my brother and they don't have the money to send him to a nice school? And at the same time, there's Sierra, who lives a very different life, and she is in foster care. And the girls cross paths one day, and you'll have to find out what happens in Every Shiny Thing. Okay, then we have Everything Else in the Universe. It is set in 1971. 12-year-old Lucy Rossi's dad has just come back from Vietnam. But unfortunately, he comes back a different man. Not only is he missing a limb, but his personality is completely changed. And she finds that her whole family is changed. And she wonders if anything can ever go back to the way that it was. So you might like Everything Else in the Universe if you like history, if you like to read books about families and coming together. Next up is Front Desk. The character in this book is Mia, and she is a little bit different from her classmates because she lives in a motel. And actually, she works the front desk. Now, her parents work there too, and it's kind of a deal they've set up between them and the owner. But the owner is very, very mean and very, very cruel, and he distrusts Mia's family. And Mia's family decides they're going to help out some friends that they know by allowing them to stay at the hotel for free. But they don't realize how this could really get them in trouble. What will happen to Mia's family? Find out by reading Front Desk. Next up is a book called Genesis Begins Again. Now, Genesis, she is 13. She struggles to love herself. In fact, she has created a list of, I think, maybe 96 things about her that are simply unlovable. And she feels like all of her family's problems all relate back to her because of the tone of her skin. She goes to school, she's picked on, she's bullied, but she manages to make a couple of friends, and she discovers she has a new talent that she didn't know about. And maybe this talent might be the thing that changes her life. Okay, we have a book called A Good Kind of Trouble. Okay, Shayla's 12 years old. She is African American. Her friends are Japanese American, and she has other friends from different ethnicities. So race is no big deal to her. And so one day it is. She starts to notice in the news there are a lot of stories about police officers clashing with African Americans. And she decides she wants to take a stand. So she wears a black armband on her wrist to school, which is seemingly harmless, but her principal does not like it. And he tells her that if she does not take that band off, she will be suspended or expelled. So does she take her band off, or does she get more people to join her? You'll have to find out in A Good Kind of Trouble. Okay, next up is a book called Harbor Me. It's about 6 students at a school that are bullied by their classmates, and one day someone decides that they need to help each other. So they are all put together in a room together where they discuss the problems that they are facing. There's Esteban, who's dealing with his dad's possible deportation. There's another character who's dealing with a father going to jail. And there's a lot of issues going around, but the friends realize that they have each other. So if you like books about coming together and friendships, you will like Harbor Me. Okay, the next one is a suspense survival story. It's called I Am Still Alive. It's about a girl named Jess who has no relationship with her father. He lives, I believe, in Canada, out in the wilderness by himself. Well, one day she has to go live with him out in the middle of nowhere, and she tries to get to know him. But one day he is murdered and the cabin is set on fire, and Jess is alone with no one to talk to, no cell phones or anything like that. Will she be able to survive? Okay, the next one is called The Jigsaw Jungle. It's about a girl who, her father, one night, he's missing, and she does not know what happened to him. He just vanishes. Well, she eventually finds out that he leaves a message saying he just needs some time away, some time alone. Well, Claudia thinks something else is going on. So she starts to gather some of his old books, some of his old receipts, email messages, text messages, and she puts them all together in a scrapbook. She wants to find out what really happened to her father. Is he safe? Is he where he says he is? And I like this book because it's not told in a typical paragraph format book. You've got all of these little things coming together that you put together like a puzzle. So if that's your thing, you'll like this book. Okay, Lifeboat 12, another survival story. This is during World War II, and in Europe, families did not want they wanted their children to be safe, and some had the option of sending them to places like Canada. They would put them on a boat, and they would sail across the ocean and hopefully reach their destination. Well, in this one book, family sends their son on a luxury liner, and at first he doesn't want to go because he feels like his family just wants to get rid of him. But it's a wonderful boat. There's toys, there's food, there's all kinds of things. And they're sailing through the ocean, and they think they're safe until they are torpedoed by a U-boat. And everybody runs to their lifeboat, including the main character. He safely gets on his lifeboat with a bunch of other kids and adults, and they are stranded out in the middle of the ocean with no food, or very little food, a couple of blankets, and no way to communicate with anybody else. what will happen to them. And this is really cool because it is based on a true story. So if you like adventure, you'll like this one. Okay, Marcus Vega doesn't speak Spanish. Marcus Vega is an 8th grader. He is about 6 feet tall, 180 pounds. He has a mustache, so he kind of looks like a man. Well, he's a target of bullying at school, and one day he gets in a fight. So his mother says, you know what, we need to go to Puerto Rico. You need to calm down. You need to meet some of your relatives. Well, he doesn't want to go, but once he's there, he realizes that he does want to be there, and he wants to find the father that he thinks abandoned him. Miscalculations of Lightning Girl. This is about Lucy Callahan, who was struck by lightning when she was 8 years old, and she lives. Okay, she's struck by lightning, but it does change her brain. As a result, she becomes a math genius. She can solve any math problem in her head, calculus, anything incredibly hard that would be hard for us. She also develops OCD at the same time. As a result, she stays home. She doesn't go to school. She's homeschooled until her grandmother says, you know what? You need to be schooled. And Lucy, she doesn't want to be schooled. She's ready for college. But find out what happens to Lucy when she goes to school, and she's so different from everybody else. How will she fit in? Okay, Night Diary is a book that takes place in 1947 in a place called India, country called India. At the time, it was a pretty good place to live. Now, she is half Hindu, she is half Muslim. The two groups get along until the day that they don't. India is divided into two countries called India and Pakistan. And at first, it's okay, but then the groups start fighting, and Nisha and her family have to flee. So they're on the run, and it's a very scary time for her. And she only finds comfort by writing in her diary, the diary that her mother gave her. Find out what happens to her and her family. Will they ever be the same? Next up is Not If I Save You First. This is kind of a suspenseful romance book. It starts when Logan, he is the son of the president, and Maddie is the daughter of a Secret Service agent. They're friends in their childhood until one day, Maddie and her father, they have to leave and go live in a remote Alaskan cabin. We've already had a book about that. And Logan promises he'll write her, but he doesn't. And then one day, after many years later, he shows up at her doorstep. And Maddie, she's not happy to see him. And before long, something happens to Logan, and it's up to Maddie to save him. The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise is about a girl named Coyote, which is kind of a strange name, and her father, who she calls Rodeo. Now, they live in an abandoned school bus, and they take that school bus and they just travel across the country. They've been doing that for 5 years. They do have a home that's in Washington, but they left after the mother died and the sisters died in an accident. Well, Coyote finds out that there's going to be a park that's going to be destroyed. And the problem is she buried a memory box in that park. And she wants to get it back. So she has to convince her father to go home. Now, this book is appealing because it's about the relationships they make along the way, the friendships they find along the road, all these quirky people that they would have never met before. You'll have to find out if she actually makes it back or not. Okay, Shouting at the Rain. Delcy lives with her grandmother in a place called Cape Cod, which is known to be kind of a really nice tourist attraction. And each year she has a best friend that comes to see her. Well, this year the best friend comes, but she brings another friend with her. And the girls decide out of nowhere that they don't like Delcy anymore. She feels alone. She feels hurt. And she decides that, she's going to make more friends, but that's very, very hard to do. And then a boy comes along that's very different from her, and she finds out that maybe his friendship is just what she needs. It's called Shouting at the Rain. And it's called Shouting at the Rain because she's one of these girls, she loves weather. So we'll have to find out how that plays along with the plot. Okay, Small Spaces. This is a creepy book. It's about an 11-year-old girl named Ollie. She loves books. One day, I think she's walking home from school. She sees a strange woman throw a book into a creek. Well, being a book lover, she rescues the book. And in it is talks about a very mysterious figure called the Smiling Man. She reads it, she thinks it's just a creepy story. Then one day she's on a field trip, they're coming back, the bus breaks down in the middle of nowhere, and there's all of these creepy, smiling scarecrows out in the field. And she begins to realize that maybe the Smiling Man is actually someone that's not in fiction, but somebody that's real. So you'll have to find out what happens in Small Space. It's a very creepy, weird story, but I think you'd like it. Okay, last is The Unteachables. Now, room 117 is full of kids that basically people have given up on. I mean, they've got different problems, they're negative, they start fires, they do all kinds of bad things, so to speak. Now, the only thing worse than the kids is the teacher. Mr. Kermit has an attitude worse than the kids. He was thrown into the classroom. He is emotionally done with teaching. Now, he used to be a great teacher, but a couple years back, something bad happened in his classroom, and from that point on, he just didn't care anymore. So people thought, let's put this teacher together with these kids. Well, what happens is a new teacher comes along across the hall, and before long, Mr. Kermit realizes what attracted him to teaching in the first place. And the kids, they start to believe in themselves. So this is a great school book about middle school that I think anybody would enjoy. It's Unteachables. It's by Gordon Corman. He writes a lot of good things. So that is 20 books. That is a lot. Like I said, we've got the physical copies of most of these in the library, so you can come check them out. Now, if you can't get to the library, remember we've got Macinvia, the app in your Launchpad. Open it up. You will find all of these books there. You can download it to your device. So I hope you enjoy these. Thanks for listening.